This hangout is on the air. It's live. Okay, excellent. Thank you for joining us today. And today I have Dr. Eric Zielinski with me, which you may have heard of. He's been one of the forefront guys in many of the online summits. And today we have him to talk about one of my favorites, one of his specialties, essential oils. Dr. Z, hello, good morning.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Mike. I really appreciate it. And it's good to reconnect.
Man, I'm so glad to have you because you have done some amazing things in this space. You've organized, you've brought together the essential oil community. There's, different companies that make brands, and there's lots of different experts with different opinions. You've brought them together in this essential oil summit. And when was that? That was back, was that last year?
Yeah, it was actually almost exactly a year ago. We're about approaching our 1-year anniversary, the day after Mother's Day. I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah. So it is perfect timing. This really is a year ago. And you're doing something again this year.
Mm-hmm. August 22nd. We were going to have it again the day after Mother's Day, and I've been off more than what I could chew. I hosted a Heal Your Gut Summit in January. I have a breast cancer survival summit in October, and I do 1,000 things. I have 100 kids, it seems like at times, and I've just got too busy. And I talked to my production company. I'm like, hey, let's bump it out. And it's working out great because I'm working at a book deal to get for the first time ever, really, to get an essential oil based book done through a major publisher for the lay audience, because we have stuff out there, for Elsevier and for more, textbook related stuff. But what I specialize in is communicating it in a way where, folks understand, and it's not too much information where it's like over our heads, biochemistry, because you and I were just talking about that, Mike. I don't have your mind. We were talking about people like Dr. Robert Pappas. I don't think like you guys do. You guys are very, your brilliance works in a different way than my brilliance does. And when you guys talk about the things that you talk about with chemistry and science, my head spins. But I communicate in a way that makes sense to me, and evidently it makes sense to a lot of other people too. So we have a lot of fun doing what we do.
I love it. And I remember, because you bring out a neat point, and I remember when I was teaching organic chemistry, and I did a real good job teaching it the first few quarters, but the more I understood it, the worse I was less of a teacher, because I was using words that I assumed everybody knew because they became common knowledge to me, but it didn't make sense to anyone. So I love it that you can bring it to the people in a way they can understand. So what I'm going to do is back down a little bit and act as if I don't know anything about essential oils, because I want to ask you the questions, the things that I didn't know before I knew anything about essential oils, the things that I would have wanted to know, the things that would have helped me get to kind of a faster start. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping that people can get out of this time that I'm spending with you. And also, I have to bring out the point, because you mentioned Cancer Summit and Digestion Summit and Essential Oils Summit. These things aren't that far apart from each other. They're very, very related, all three of those. So when we step back and look at it, you're an expert in this whole health space. It's not like it's not like Dr. Eric Z is, split guy and doing all these multiple personalities or anything. And I hope to tie that together in this time that I'm spending with you this morning too. So
that's a good point. That's a really good point. And I think that's critical actually to mention, because what I consider myself is a biblical health educator who specializes in essential oils. And once you start really understanding biblical health, you start understanding natural health or health as a whole, you get that the gut is a cornerstone of really your immune system. And then you start seeing the connection between gut and cancer. And then you start looking at natural therapies like aloe, which you specialize in, essential oils, and others that could help with the whole. See, the thing is, we've compartmentalized things in the medical community to a point where we forget. And I love what the Bible says, the hand can't say to the eye, I don't need you. I mean, that's where we're at. The foot can't say to the toe, you're not necessary, or the nose, or, we need everything. And so that's really true holistic living. But yeah, Mike, that's a really good, astute observation, because it's all interconnected. And I look forward to doing more psychosocial summits. Like, let's look more into the mind, because that's really a big connection too. And going forward, spiritual summits, that's a huge component, like the spiritual aspect of healing, spiritual aspect of living the abundant life. We can't, financial, I mean, we could go more. Like, that's really what my passion is. So,
I love it. And I try to always communicate to people, there is no magic bullet. Yeah. It's this whole plan, and they all work together. And, I love the fact that you mentioned the spiritual, modern medicine might call it positive mental attitude, and talk about how positive thinking affects your health. We can look at that from our perspective, which is different, and they both might work. One just might be a little bit more on target than the other. But the fact of the matter is, all of this, the mental, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, the diet, the exercise, and all these things tie together. So I'm glad we can look at the big picture and also kind of chew on a section like today, focusing on the essential oils. How did you get involved? How did you discover essential oils? What made them important to you?
It was Sabrina. It was my wife. She has been utilizing oils since she's been a teenager. Her story is pretty profound. She had a chemical reaction. She got some product, and I forget what it was, some clear skin knockoff product at Kmart back in the late 80s, early 90s. And she was washing her face with that. And she was in Minnesota visiting her grandparents who had well water, and something with the chemicals that they were using, the softening the water with the actual, facial cleaner, whatever it was, created chemical reaction on her face. And it literally burned from here down. It burned the first 4 layers of her skin, 3/4 from what she could tell. And it was just unbelievable. Like, you imagine she's a beautiful girl. She was a beautiful girl. She's a beautiful woman. I can't imagine just a beautiful young woman washing her face with her morning routine and just sensing like bubbling, burning. And she tried everything she could. And her mother's good friend is Cherokee Indian, and she practices Ojibwa medicine. And she said, you really got to get some lavender. And so she bought my wife her first little kit, and then she utilized just a do-it-yourself concoction with some lavender and some carrier oils, and she just started applying it. And that with just a lot of actually aloe and some other therapies that she used really brought healing to her skin. You look at her now, you would never believe, you never see. I mean, she's 38. She's not like she's too old, but she's got this face, the skin of a 25-year-old woman, and she's just always glowing skin. And so when I married her, I didn't think anything really of oils at the time. Really, quite frankly, patchouli and my hippie friends, marijuana. That's kind of where my thought was. Like, I just, when I went to college, some friends of mine used to smoke pot and they used to use patchouli, and I just thought that's hippie stuff. Like, seriously, I just kind of marginalized it. And I just didn't think twice until my wife had her little routine every day, every morning. She does her thing, and never really questioned it. That's just, I thought, perfume, smelly stuff, until one of our mutual friends, Dr. Josh Axe, and I started writing on a series of public health reports, because I'm a medical writer, I'm a research writer. And I started working with him, and I was floored, Mike. I was floored at the research. It was unbelievable, the stuff that's out there. Most of these are in vitro studies. They're not, we don't have a lot of human trials, and that's tough to do in the natural health world just because funding. But the reality was, even at the in vitro, the animal studies, the theory behind it, looking at the history, I had to step back. And I kind of like had one of those moments like, Sabrina, what are you really doing? And then she's kind of explained stuff to me, and she started talking to me, and then I just took it. I took it to another level, and I started absorbing myself into it. I started utilizing it in my own self, started working with her and the children, and then it just blew up into what it was. And it's been a couple of years that I've been really deeply into this, and now I'm getting certified as we speak as an aromatherapist, because I want to learn more, because it's more than just what the research tells me. I want to go back into the history. I want to go back and how people have been utilizing oils for really thousands of years.
Yeah, I love it. And it kind of ties in with one of my core beliefs, and the reason why we need to learn more about essential oils. They've been using them for thousands of years without polluting the planet.
Yeah.
We're in this chemical soup in the air, in the water, in the soils, in the foods that we eat, chemicals that did not exist 1,000 years ago. But for thousands of years, they've been, using the plant foods for healing, whether, herbs, or I don't know to what extent they were, boiling them down thousands of years ago, but they were certainly using them, and they may not have had the purity that we have now, but we have access to this super pure, plant oils, herbs, things that we have not, that we've been getting away from, that could really solve our chemical dependence. It could solve the issues when it comes to healthcare and the foods we eat and the drugs that we're taking for treating conditions that are going nowhere. There's actually a way we can do these things naturally without damaging our planet, and it just makes sense to tap into this.
Yeah, and be more sustainable too, because that is a problem even in our space. I mean, we're having problems with supply, and it's tough. It's a catch-22. We want the whole world to be using these things. I mean, aloe, how much aloe is there? I mean, is there enough aloe, for example, to go around so everyone can use enough aloe? Maybe, maybe not. And so we're having that problem with rose and some chamomiles, tansy. We're having that problem with melissa, which is lemon balm. It's just these ginormous companies are buying so much that the supply is just diminishing, and so then the cost gets up. Like, you're going to get a bottle of melissa oil for $120, $30, and rose is going for $250+, and it's a lot of money. And it's not to say that it's a waste of money. It's just, so we're at a point too of it's getting to be a critical mass. Like, now some of the largest companies are looking at, okay, how do we really make this sustainable? Because we need to, but there are ways, and that's where we have to be really creative.
Yeah, as more and more people discover them, I agree with you. As people get away from chemicals and start using, real plant products. You mentioned lavender as being the one that you were kind of first introduced to, and I would probably look at that and say that's probably a staple in most homes. What other essential oils would you think that people might want to start with bringing into their homes for, using, and how would you suggest they use them?
Yeah, Mike, my top 3 right now, and they always change. I guess I go through seasons, but I'm using a lot of peppermint, clove, and orange, whether it's wild or sweet orange or whatever species. Those have been my 3. I mean, just staples, and I love that they're cost effective. I mean, really, folks, we got to be real. I have 3 children. My wife's pregnant with baby Z number 4. I get it. I know what it's like being on a budget. I know what it's like providing for my family. And I don't try to be, I try not to be reckless, and I try to be wise with the money I spend. So if you're on a budget, which is a big key to this, because I hear this a lot. Well, I can't afford this. I can't afford that. I get it. So these are oils that are relatively inexpensive, that you could get organic, you could get indigenously sourced, which is key. We can talk a little bit about that, because you really want to get oils primarily from plants that were grown in the environment that really God planted them. There's a whole slew of information. We could talk about that. But the problem we're seeing with non-indigenously sourced oils and plants is they just don't have the chemical compounds that the natural stuff does.
Right.
That's that. So orange, I love orange. I'm high in antioxidants. It's a great mood elevator. It is the traditional, it's a traditional oil that people have used to balance hormones, to balance emotion, and it's great for aromatherapy. You can put a drop in your water, which I personally like to do. Even tasty with me. You want to add a little antioxidant boost, like maybe a drop in your in your raw honey, which is really nice. Or if you don't necessarily like orange, lemon, either or. I kind of like both. I kind of go back and forth. I go through a lemon phase, but right now I'm in an orange phase. I like San Pellegrino. I like sparkling water in glass that I put a drop of orange and then a couple drops of stevia. That's my soda. I haven't drank soda pop or pop. I'm from Michigan in 13 years. So that's what I do. That's my refreshment. And I like peppermint for so many different reasons. Peppermint's my MVP. I mean, there's virtually nothing I don't use. I can't use peppermint for. It is a vasodilator, so it really opens up it's a bronchodilator. So it opens things up in your body And if you can't tell, I'm a little congested right now. We've just been dealing with a ton of different allergens in Georgia. So I'm utilizing peppermint to help open me up and help me drain because I'm getting clogged up. I'm getting congested here.
Yeah.
And it's also good for exercise. I'm floored at the research talking about how a drop of peppermint in your water or a drop in your mouth, maybe on the back of your neck diluted with some coconut oil, actually opens up the airways and helps athletes perform better, recover quicker, because more oxygen that you breathe, the quicker your body metabolizes the lactic acid that gets produced when you exercise. Love peppermint. And clove isn't one that I necessarily overly use, but it's one I like having. I do use it every day. I try to with toothpaste. I love it. I love it as my oral health solution. There's such a connection too with oral health. I mean, Jonathan Landsman, I'll give him a good plug. I was in the Oral Health Summit a few months ago, and these experts, they blow your mind. I mean, we can literally connect oral health to virtually 80–90% of most diseases, because it's a systemic condition. We can talk more about oral infection, but clove is the prototypical oil to help with everything from gingivitis to baby's teething pain to tooth sensitivity. And so me personally, I can just put, I get toothpaste, I put a drop of clove and I could brush it. But I've built myself up there for people who are more sensitive. Then you might want to consider getting a couple drops of clove, a couple drops of coconut oil, mix it in first to dilute it, and then utilize that with your toothpaste. I 100% recommend fluoride-free toothpaste, or make your own. I have a great recipe on my website that you can make your own toothpaste, easy peasy, with some, diatomaceous earth or something good. So many things. So peppermint, orange, and clove are my top 3 right now.
I love it. Peppermint oil is one of my favorites too. How would you be using it now for your, you mentioned the allergens and the stuffiness, the congestion. How would you be using it now? And if you were just using it for the first time, how would you have used it instead? Because you mentioned that you kind of built up to it. You're able to use it more now than you did, I guess, initially. How would you ease into it?
Yeah, and specifically when I'm at building up to clove, where I could put it in like on my toothbrush, brushing my teeth. Some people will do that. They'll burn their gums, or their gums will have a burning sensation. My skin has responded well to that. So that's when it comes to that. Peppermint, right now, I'm utilizing in a diffuser. I like having peppermint with a lid, actually peppermint and orange. Peppermint and citrus oils are great. I actually like diffusing that. That helps open up the airways and can boost the mood a little bit. That's very easy. You can get a diffuser. You can get them now, at Walmart. And so many stores are selling, because oils are so popular now. You can get diffusers cheap. If you're looking for a good diffuser, I don't recommend oil brands. I try to stay out of that mess, because that could get me in trouble. But brands of diffusers I'll recommend all day, because they're just a diffuser. I don't have a tie to that.
Do you have any listed on your website?
Yeah, no. I'll tell people Green Air. If you're listening, go to Amazon. Go type up Green Air. These things, they're not sexy. They're not the ones you're gonna go. Straight up. I know the owner of the company. I love you, but it's no offense. Some of the ones that I have, they have really fancy ones, but the one we use, it looks like R2D2. It's $25 and it lasts for 6 hours at a time, and it will fill a room 500 square feet. It's perfect, functionally speaking, but it's not the one we have in our living room mantle. One living room mantle looks nice. My wife thinks it matches, whatever. But I'm practical, man. That's what I have in my office, and we have that in my room right next to my bedstand. So yeah, a couple drops of peppermint, a couple drops of orange. We type up Green Air on Amazon. Get their one that looks like R2D2. $25–30. Awesome. Some of them might cost like $150. Come on.
We started off with the ceramic ring, that you put on the light bulb, but now you're heating it and you're cooking it. But it was nice to have company over, and they walk in and say, what, did you bake us a pie? Or, it was nice, because you could really change the mood with a slight scent using something naturally. So it was that little ceramic ring on the light bulb. And then we went to the more, that worked more like a nebulizer, where they aerate the aromatherapy without cooking it.
One other thing I'm doing is I have peppermint, lavender, and lemon in a capsule. and I'm taking that. I'll take that a couple times as I go through this little allergy thing. Yeah. And it's really nice. I mean, really nice, because lavender will calm the system. Peppermint opens everything up. Lemon helps detox. It's a really nice 1, 2, 3 punch. So that's something that I'm utilizing to get through this little hay fever thing. And folks, you know what, at the end of the day, last night, I got to tell you, I just suffered through it. I mean, it's just life. I mean, I will not, the only time I'll take a Benadryl is when I get stung by a bee, which happens every year or two in Georgia, and my ankle turns into a cankle and it blows out because we have a lot of wasps where I live. And that's the last time, because I don't want to have like an anaphylactic attack. So I'll use Benadryl, but when it comes to allergies and stuff, I just tough it up. I mean, I'll just go to bed early. I'll take a rest. I'll tell my kids, hey, give daddy some space. My head's in a vice. And they're like, what? I'm like, I'm not feeling good, you know, whatever. But this is real, folks. I mean, you know, like Mike and I were talking, this is life, you know, and we go
everything's right and still catch a cold. You know, we're not immune to it. But I think we can have some say in it. For instance, you know, I like to use essential oils and load up on garlic and things like that. And it's like you can knock it out in 2 or 3 days, or you can be like everyone else where it takes, you know, 7 to 10 days. You know, perfect. I like knocking it out, giving it the 1-2 punch.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, Mike, I always say this, we don't get knocked down anymore. I mean, we don't do it. It's like our bodies are so prepared for when something happens, we could still function. And I remember even, you know, 15, 20 years ago now, man, I would get knocked down. I'll get knocked out. Like I couldn't go to work. I couldn't study. I couldn't go to school. I can function. It's very rare that I'm out of commission. So that's a good point. So we're better prepared. We recover quicker, and we do get sick and allergies less frequently, but it's still what it is.
Now, when we were in school, you know, one of the classes that we took was dissection and stuff. And they used to, you know, we used to put something up here just so that you wouldn't smell the dissection in the lab. When you get a cold and you wanted to have that, and maybe you didn't have access to a diffuser or something, would you ever put it on you? Would you ever put it on your chest at night?
Yeah, same concept. Like I was a kid and my mom would rub Vicks on my chest. You know, Vicks vapor rub. You could do the same thing with some coconut oil and some eucalyptus, some peppermint, laurel leaf. I mean, there's so many different things that you could do. Make your own. I mean, a lot of companies already have their quote respiratory blend or something like that is perfect. It's just, you know, easy peasy, you're already ready. Oh yeah, I love it. You know, you want to be careful putting in the nose, nostrils, you know, in the orifices. I mean, really, people don't think about that stuff, but you want not in the ear canal, never in the nostril. You know, some people do suppositories. Be careful, do it under guidance, because that can help, especially with prostate conditions or other things. Just be careful. But yeah, for sure. And I'll even sometimes put it on the outer rim of the nasal cavity. Right. That's a great way.
Now, but keeping it real, and you know, for someone that hasn't tried essential oils, might be hearing this and saying, "Okay, I want to use this. That sounds like a great idea. I want to try it. I can relate the eucalyptus stuff on the chest, and I know there's the medical versions and stuff. But if I wanted to make my own, are you gonna mix it on a spoon? Are you gonna mix it in a glass thing? Are you gonna put oil on your chest and just mix it right there on your chest and rub it around? What would you do?"
So this is what I do, and what we all could do is, I mean, really, to me, the easiest thing to do is you could get just a little cup, a glass ceramic cup, like something really, really small, like this size, and you could put a couple drops of your oil in, a couple drops of a carrier oil, and the most popular, I think most effective carrier oils are fractionated coconut, almond, or jojoba. You can just mix those together. You can mix them together with your finger if you want. You can mix them together with a wooden like stick, you know, like a skewer. You stay away from plastic. That is essential oil tip 101. No plastic. We talked a little bit about that, what plastic can do. The petrochemicals in plastic are so weak that these volatile organic compounds will literally eat it away. So stay away from plastic, keep in glass or ceramic, mix it up, and then you can apply it. If you feel comfortable, you can put a couple drops in your hand, mix it up with a couple drops of oil. One practical point is if you have coconut oil, for example, coconut oil works fine regularly, but it's still filled with so many nutrients that we don't necessarily want those nutrients for this, because all those nutrients actually create somewhat of a barrier and leave an oilier residue on the hand. That's why if that's all you got, hey, I use it too. It's more like a lotion. But if you want to use it for therapeutic purposes, like, I'm not kidding, these oils penetrate down to the cellular level. Like, that's proven. I mean, they penetrate in your skin. You put a drop of oil on your hand, you're not going to feel it in 5 minutes. Where did it go? Well, it's in your bloodstream. So fractionated coconut oil is key, because what they do, the manufacturers, actually fractionate out, like fraction, 1/4, they take out all of the nutrients in it. So basically it's just left with the fat, the lipid, which immediately absorbs in your skin. So that's really, I mean, the safety tips of that in the most effective way.
Yeah, it was only a handful of years ago when we were taught that the skin was this barrier, and it kept the, outside world out of your body.
Yeah.
But, within a short period of time of me being taught that, years ago, all of a sudden, pharmaceutical companies started selling drugs that they would deliver through the skin, and patches and roll-ons and things like that, and hormones and various pain relieving things that they actually give to people through the skin. So, I think it's important to emphasize that and understand, people, the skin is like your gut. It's a digestive organ. It absorbs, it eats, it drinks, it excretes, just like your gut does. So yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I did a lot of research on the skin microbiome for the Microbiome Summit. Like, there's actually colonies, billions of different colonies of bacteria and fungi and things that live on our body. I mean, it's somewhat gross when you think of it, but Mike, when I'm looking at you, I'm looking at 10 bacterial cells per 1 human cell. I'm not even looking at a human. I'm looking at a hodgepodge of bugs and people and stuff, and we don't get it that our skin literally absorbs 65+% of all the chemicals that we put on it. And like you said, that blew my mind. I will say I wasn't taught that either. And it blew my mind when I saw the patch for the first time many years ago. I'm like, really? That actually does work to that level? Well, yeah. I mean, so we have research that actually suggests that once you put oils on your skin, essential oils, it actually will get systemic through the entire body, through the bloodstream within 20 minutes. And here's a kicker though, and this is so important. Like, I don't want to get too in depth with it, but if you remember anything about essential oils, remember that your body metabolizes them within like 4 hours. Here's why that's important. You take a drug, your body ain't metabolizing that fully at all. Your body's going to store that in the fat cells. It's going to create liver toxicity. It's going to create kidney damage, because your body cannot completely metabolize and break down all the chemicals in the drug, or you're just going to excrete it out. A lot of our multivitamins, people just urinate them out or poop them out. Oils, no. They literally get completely absorbed within the body. It's like the body just sucks it up and takes every part of it. And then it's like, okay. So you could utilize essential oil therapy theoretically on a 4 to 5 hour basis. So if you have a condition like, eczema, or if you're having a respiratory condition, you can apply oils every 4 to 5 hours, because that's when the effect is going to be done. And that's also nice too, because you're going to know that these aren't going to last forever, right? So you utilize lavender to help calm, for example, and if you really are going through a stressful moment, maybe an anxiety or a panic attack right now, you can utilize aromatherapy, maybe put some lavender on some pressure points on your wrist or behind your knees, which is a nice technique as well, with some, and you'll know that after a couple hours, that calming effect will go away, because people don't necessarily want to be calm all the time. I mean, what if you want to get energetic quick and exercise? You're, like, I don't want to be really calm right now, put everyone to sleep, right? I want to be like Ben Stein at, the Wonder Years. I mean, so that's something to think about. Our body, the end of the day is this: the chemistry within the plant works with the chemistry of the body. It's just beautiful. It's synergy.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a few more questions for you. I don't want to ask you too many, because you have this summit coming up that's going to cover these things. But if I'm a new person here, I want to get started now. I don't want to wait until the summit is there. I want essential oils today in my life.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about using it for health reasons and stuff like that. And, you mentioned rose oil being however much it was. I think that's one of those that you almost buy by the drop. if I was making a house cleaner, I'm probably not going to mop my floors with rose oil. Is there some practical house cleaners solutions that you use so that you're not dumping chemicals down the drain every time you wash your kitchen counters or anything like that? Are you using essential oils to clean your home?
Oh yeah. I don't have the recipe on the top of my head, but we actually, my wife, she put together a great floor cleaner, and the state bird in Georgia is a cockroach. And so when we came down to Georgia, we realized that these huge, enormous cockroaches have their way of getting into the house. So she came up with this really cool bug repellent.
Here in Florida, by the way, we call them palmetto bugs because they fly, just so you know.
Yeah, that's why we call them the state bird. So yeah, exactly. Palmetto, I love it. So yeah, it's great. I mean, so she used Castile soap and Murphy's oil soap with a bunch of different oils like peppermint and, if I remember correctly, citronella and pine, and then a half a dozen. I can't remember right now, but yeah, it's right on my website. My wife, she has a really cool blog on my website, the Mama Z DIY recipe thing that she's just building. It's awesome. I'm really excited. Yeah. So yeah, it's there. It's so easy to do, folks. Yeah, everything. And that's a good point. So I hope this answers a future other question you're looking at, because this is really neat. Like hand sanitizer, your lotion, your soap, anything that you want to replace with a non-harmful, non-toxic solution, essential oils should be part of that. I mean, it's really, you can't do enough with coconut oil, essential oils, and then add some other base products like shea butter or diatomaceous earth, or you name it. But yeah, for hand sanitizer, that's like my #1 public enemy right now, because it is causing so much damage to the skin microbiome, which is the #1 barrier of disease. It really is. Our skin is the first line of defense. And so when we start drying out our skin, when we start destroying the microbiome, which is all the bacteria and all the little bugs on our skin that work with our body in unison to keep us healthy, we're creating a mess. And there's triclosan and other registered pesticides in these chemicals, in these little hand sanitizers. And I'm telling you, folks, these chemicals have been linked to neurocognitive disorders like Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, and you name it. So if you do use hand sanitizer, like I used to, I used to be a junkie. Like I used to be that person. Every time I touched a doorknob, I was doing my thing, because that's marketing. It was so brilliant, man. I ate that hook, line, and sinker about a decade ago and 5 years ago. So an easy solution is to get a little glass spritzer bottle, simply put a couple bucks, you fill it with water, just tap water. If you have filtered water, better. And then put 10 to 20 drops of whatever essential oil you want, because all essential oils are antimicrobial. And here's the difference though, Mike, they're not gonna kill the good bacteria like we do see hand sanitizer, because that's the problem. Hand sanitizer is like an antibiotic. It's like a nuclear bomb. It'll kill all of the bacteria. Where essential oils, the way that God designed them, have what's known as cell selectivity. They literally will leave a majority of the healthy probiotics alone, and they'll target the pathogenic bacteria. It's brilliant, because that's the natural defense in the plant. Folks, and just if you can't even conceptualize what an oil is, I'm sure many of you have cut an orange or a lime or a lemon with a knife, and your hands maybe were a little greasy. Well, that's the essential oil in the rind. And one rind of a lemon, you cold press that together, you'll get roughly 4 to 5 drops of pure essential oil when you do it, through a manufacturing process. So just so you understand, oils are in every plant. They're in tree bark, they're in roots, they're in things that, when ancient tribes used to burn leaves for rituals, they would have a psychosomatic experience because of the oil in the plant. So anyway, really important tips.
Good point. What's a therapeutic oil? Is that a term that we throw out? Does everyone sell their oils as therapeutic, or is there a real meaning to that?
It's relative, but there is meaning to it. And you and I were talking about Dr. Robert Pappas before we jumped on. Dr. Pappas, he mentions that in my oil summit from last year, there is such a thing as therapeutic. However, the problem is, like any supplement, like anything, there's no government agency that regulates it, which is probably a good thing. But the reality is it's relative and individualized to what the company determines as therapeutic.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
I don't want you to mention brands or anything like that, but can you give me a guide? How would I find good oils? Is it, do you ask your friends what they're using and what's working for them? Is it trial and error? How did you figure it out?
So give me a couple days, because I'm wrapping up an article, because this is probably the #1 most common question. I actually finally finishing it, to how to find a brand. But
drericz.com, are we going to find that article?
Yeah. It's going to be right in my database. So I have one of, if not the, at this point, largest essential oil database on the internet. It covers, I don't know how many now, like 40-ish single oils that I give public health profiles, and then I cover 30, 40 different conditions, and part of that is going to be how to find a brand. But to give you a sneak peek of that article, these companies know what they're doing, and they know where they get their stuff from. We're finding that some of the largest companies on the planet right now, because again, we're talking about supply and demand issue, they might be buying supply from manufacturers that are adulterating oil. So there's been some reports out there that a lot of the big name brands, or some of the big name brands, are selling junk. And so it's tough. It's really tough, because at the end of the day, we really don't know what Somalians are doing to frankincense. I mean, that's what the problem is, because the Somalians, for example, have the market crackdown on frankincense. They got the supply, they got millions and millions of frankincense trees, and they dry the resin. And then from the process of them getting the resin, distilling it to the oil, selling it to the US distributor, boom, it gets shipped to us. There's a lot of different hands. And so when the company gets it, there's only so much the company can do. And that's why the company goes to a third party and says, hey, is this good? Is it not? And so you want to go ask, and they have it. You want to ask the company what their purity standards are. What do they do? Where do they get their oils from? And ask them, is it GRAS? Do they have the generally recognizable as safe standard on it? Do they have the supplement label? That is a good indication, because if you do see the word supplement on the bottle, that does indicate that it should be at least safe for internal use if used properly. And that's a good tip. When you go to, like, say, a health food store and they're selling an oil, a lot of it will say 100% pure, but what does that mean? Some brands, I mean, you'll say 100% pure frankincense, but it also says other ingredients, and then they list other ingredients. So yeah, theoretically, it's 1 drop of pure frankincense with 100 drops of carrier. You just wasted your money.
That's the biggest lie that I've seen in products being sold, and I cannot believe what they get away with. Yeah. I have to tell you about a mistake that we had learned in formulating our own aloe creams for the body. When we had taken over this product line, there was Rodney Stockton had been making this stuff from the 70s, this one particular line, and got amazing results with it. But it had things in it that we would never put on our bodies. Now, I used it years before, and that's how I discovered the benefits. But now with what I know, knowing that my skin eats and drinks, I don't want that stuff on my skin.
Yep.
And we made this incredible, beautiful formula. We started sourcing ingredients, and we put it all together. And it was important to us to have, paraben-free on the label. And it was legitimately paraben-free. But then what we had discovered is some of the ingredients that we sourced were preserved with parabens.
Yep.
So meaning parabens didn't belong on the label, because you only list the primary ingredients, but things are preserved. That's why, from what I understand, that's why they say that vaccines have mercury in them. They might not add mercury to it, but the subcomponents may be preserved with mercury compounds.
And they don't need to report it.
Right.
That's a problem. We don't even know what's in our stuff.
Yeah. We had fixed that in our particular line since we learned that. It was after the fact, once it was all manufactured, and we had to come clean to our customer and say, our paraben-free product, we found out, has parabens in it. Our next batch won't. But we didn't add any. It's just what happened. So yeah, you can call us and find out exactly what's in our products. So I would imagine if you were purchasing an essential oil, you could call the company and find out what's in their products.
And if they don't tell you, that's not a good sign. I mean, really, they know. And they should have trifold PDF pamphlets they could email you. So I would contact their customer support. And here's the thing, folks, a lot of people use essential oils as medicine. I do. And if I do use medicine on a very rare occasion when I need to, and thank God for it, But for the 99% of everything else that I do, I use homeopathic medicine. I use essential oil therapy and my own little cool stuff that we do, and we're good to go. But you want to make sure it's good for you. And so take a little time. And also, once you find a brand that you feel is good, you vet them out, you test them. Try a couple. I mean, ask them, say, hey, can I get a little starter kit? It doesn't have to be like their big $500 deal, whatever they sell. Get lemon, lavender, peppermint, get orange, get clove, get some of the lower expensive, cheaper ones, and test them out. See how they smell, see how they feel. Is it really watery down? Is there a foul smell to them? And like, you'll see some of them are adulterated with chemicals to stretch the oil out, and then you can smell, you'll know. And if you just open up the bottle and if something's repulsive, like, that's not a good sign. Like, these should bring life. They should smell good. I mean, really, you should be attracted to them. I mean, quite frequently, when I open up an orange, you smell it. It smells like an orange. Your oil should smell like that. It's an oil that's based off of orange rind. So think about it in that way, because I've smelled some citrus oils like, what is this? This ain't no citrus. I mean, I don't know where you're coming up with this stuff. So yeah, and I'm not a perfumer. I don't have the nose like people like we mentioned Dr. Robert Pappas does, who's been doing this for 20-some years. He's a perfumer. He could smell something halfway across the wall of the room and be like, oh, boom, boom, boom. I'm not there. But I know what smells good and what doesn't.
Right. Great points. I could talk to you for hours about this. I wanted to talk a little bit about gut. I wanted to talk a little bit about, cancer, and not as a treatment, but how might you utilize this if you're fighting cancers, and what could it do for you? How might you benefit? I'm hoping you cover those things in your summit. What's the name of the upcoming series?
Yeah. It's the Essential Oils Revolution Part 2. So we have Essential Oils Revolution that was in May 2015. In August 22nd, it's Essential Oils Revolution Part 2. And again, I can all check out, because I have all this stuff. I have 3 articles. I have a protocol on gut health. I have a protocol on cancer for cancer patients. I have multiple articles and everything from diabetes to Lyme to everything on my database. So check that out. We could definitely do a follow-up, Mike, if you want, maybe like a specific condition talk. That's one thing. My talks have become pretty popular on these summits because there's virtually no health condition I can't talk about with oils. I mean, I just did one on fibromyalgia. I'm featured on the anti-aging summit. It was on diabetes, cancer, truth about cancer, the quest for the cure. There's research on everything. Right. And that's the cool thing. And that we're just starting to educate the world one drop at a time, really. Okay, excellent. I love it. And you said that summit, the part 2 is going to come out when? August 22nd. August 22nd, Essential Oil Revolution 2. Summit Part 2. Did I say it right? Yeah, I'm acronyming it EOR2. So I like it. Yeah, the essential oils continues. Yeah, that's cool. The essential oil. Okay, I'll keep it simple. I'm sure below this video, when there's links available, I'll make sure that there's links so people can find it real quickly. So, go to drerickz.com. By the way, I'm sure there's probably a way for people to subscribe to your newsletters. Oh yeah, please do, folks. Because one thing thanks for mentioning that. I put together in what's called the EOR VIP. And so if you join my newsletter, which is basically a weekly education on essential oils, how to use them, some really good DIY tips, you get the very best of my first summit, 10 interviews, 10 transcripts, and 3 of my ebooks. So just as like, hey, this is what you need to get started. And it's a lot of good information. And then you get access to that, and we keep in touch. I have almost 100,000 people sign up for that, folks. So you'll be part of a big group of people. There's a lot of people out there looking for information, and just love for you to be 100,001. That's great, Dr. Eric Zielinski. And I'm going to stick with Dr. Eric Z, so people can find you easier. Don't try to look for Zielinski. Dr. Eric Z. He's everywhere. He's going to pop up. You'll find his website, and subscribe to those newsletters. I'm honored that you took time with me today. I want to thank you so much. Any closing words, closing thoughts? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mike. I really just appreciate you. It was great connecting last year and how we met. And I look forward just to keeping in touch and featuring your works. I'm loving what you're doing with aloe. I love your product. I've used it. I continue. So I want to be very sincere with that because I love it. And folks, just remember one thing. I believe this with all of my heart, is that God has given our body the unbelievable ability to heal itself under the right conditions. And we need to do our part. Okay. So whether it's essential oils, whether it's aloe, whatever it is, if we're still eating McDonald's every day, that's like one step forward, two steps back. So consider really making a lifestyle approach and just walk the good walk of faith and watch what will happen.
I stand in complete agreement with you. Well stated. Dr. Eric, thank you so much. And until next time.
Bye-bye.